Hey guys, in today's video I am going to be sharing my brow routine, so you're gonna know what I do to get them looking crispy. That's what I like to say, just the best that they can be. I know that they'll always be sisters, not twins, but I'm gonna try really hard always to make them match. So I'm gonna show you what I do to make that happen. I have no eye makeup on, you guys, just some foundation, concealer, and a little bit of contour action. And before I zoom in and start filling in, I want to talk to you guys about what I consider to be the foundation of my brows. So foundation of my brows. So I get my brows threaded, and out of all the options that are out there, I really like that because I feel like I get the crispest results because they're pulling out rows of hair at a time. So you're really gonna get a strong shape with that. So that's what I like to do. And then in between, when I'm lazy or I don't feel like going, basically still lazy, I tweeze in between for maintenance. And so that is what I do to get the basic shape, but it's just never really that consistent. Like, yes, they're crisp, but sometimes they are a little bit thicker and sometimes they're a little bit thinner depending on the person. You just never know what you're gonna get. But I never really stress out about it because I know that I can fill them in and get a shape that I really like. So right now they're a little bit on the thin side, but like I said, I don't really mind. And then the other thing that I do is that I do use that technique of using a pencil or brush or anything to kind of measure out where my brow should start, where the arch should be, like the highest point, and then where my brows should end. So I do use that, but I have a little modification for me because I do have a wider nose. So I wouldn't necessarily start my eyebrow like out here using the very outer edge. I actually go in a little bit more. So I use like this little ridge in my nose to determine where I'm gonna start. So if you have a nose that's shaped similar to mine, you can try that, and it's a really I don't know, sneaky way to contour your nose because it creates this optical illusion that it's smaller without having to go in with a bronzer or a contour item or anything like that on your nose, which I don't really prefer. I feel like it's really obvious on me. So I like to do different kinds of tricks to make my nose appear a little bit narrower. And also, I'm just not that stressed. Like, my nose is my nose. It doesn't matter like how much contour I'm gonna put on. It's my nose, you know what I'm saying? So you just gotta live with it. But I do like to use that little trick. I feel like it just does something to the proportions and it just looks really good. So that's what I like to do. And my final tip is that the brows are the first thing to do. Like, before you put on foundation or anything, they are truly the frame of your face, the frame of your makeup. To me, if my brows are not on point, my whole makeup is thrown off. So not only do I need it to kind of like give me that framework and like that jumping off point of what I want my brows to look like that day, it's also good to start them out first, because if you start with foundation and then you go in with your brow products, the brow can tend to fade away during the day, because if you get a little foundation on them, underneath them, when you're really trying to create a really sharp, just, you know, gorgeous brow, it's gonna be really annoying that by the end of the day it's not looking as crisp as you want. So that's why I feel like it's good to start with your brows first and then go in with your face products afterwards, just so that you don't mess with what you got going on after you did all that hard work, okay? Because, you know, I can spend a long time on my brows when I want to. So that is the one thing to keep in mind. And so now I'm gonna zoom in and really get into how I fill them in. First, I'm going to show you guys how I fill in my brows on an everyday basis. And I usually only use one product, and it is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz Pencil. I really like it because it is super thin, so I can get a really nice shape. And I also really like the color, and I think that's really the main selling point. So I prefer the color medium brown right now because my hair is darker around my hairline. I had blonde highlights, but they're growing out. So because the hair closest to my face is darker, I can go for a darker brown. But before that, I've used soft brown, and when I have my hair freshly highlighted, I like the color caramel, which is super light. But when I'm darker, this is what I like to use. And so like I mentioned, I line up the brow pencil with this part of my nose right here, and I just make an upward stroke like so. And this is a fresh brow pencil, you guys. So I just create a brow hair here, or just like the beginning of my brow. So I make like a little line there. And even though it's like, oh my gosh, that's a harsh line, I always go in with my spoolie, which is a very important tool. So if you decide to go with a different brow pencil, make sure it has a spoolie or that you buy a spoolie. And I'll leave a link to one that I really love from Amazon. I've marked the beginning of my brow, and you can see that it's a lot further in than where my brows naturally start to get like thicker and defined, because I do have some hairs up here, but you can't really see them. So if I measure up on this side, you'll see that my brow doesn't really need much help in the beginning up here, but I still like to map it out. And then I do from, again, the same part of the nose that I used to measure the beginning of the brow. I'm going through the center of my eye and just marking with a small dot where I should start to bring my brow down. So again, I'm going to measure like this so you guys can see pretty well. And I'm just going to mark with a little dot that's going to be gone by the time I'm done filling in. Like so. Like that's where I want the arch. And then I go actually from my corner of my nose and the corner of my eye, and then I mark where I want my brow to end. So right here. And even though I've been doing my makeup for years, I still like to measure it out. You can freehand it if you want to, but it's a good way to keep yourself from going overboard, because when you like really get in the zone, you can forget. So I've now like mapped out how I want my brows to look. And then for me, this is so controversial, right? So I have curly hair, and if I just fill in my brow like this, which is what you see everyone do, like short strokes, there are certain parts of my brow that will look like I didn't do anything, because the brow pencil cannot get through the hair and actually color my skin, which is what I want, so I can get that nice like shadowy look underneath the brow. So what I have to do, and it's gonna scare you, is I have to like go like this. So I'm like roughing up the brow so that I can get underneath them and really color in. So I don't go outside the lines at all. At this point, I'm not trying to perfect the shape. I'm just trying to get pigment underneath the hair along the entire brow. And don't use a lot of pressure or anything. I just want to get lightly a nice base. So you can already see the difference just by doing that. I haven't perfected this shape at all. So I'm just gonna brush through. So it's so handy having a brow pencil with a spoolie, whatever you choose, because you're really gonna use this a lot as you do your brows. So I already have that underneath, and now I'm gonna do the other side. I'm already starting to like work on it. I can't help myself, but you guys can see that now my brows already look like they're basically done. So now I'm gonna work on the front portion, and I don't really want that to be as dark as the rest of my brow. I'm not necessarily going for a dramatic ombre look, but I just don't want it to look super harsh. That can look a little bit too intense on most people. So I keep it light in the front, and then when I start getting towards this area of the brow, I can go in with a little more pressure to get more pigment. And so I'm just following the natural shape. Sometimes like my brow can go a little bit too high up and I want it to look thicker. So this is where I start like going outside of my shape and onto the skin itself, because I just want it to look a little bit thicker. So again, I gotta go back and forth a little bit to really get that on my skin. and I'm using those dots we did earlier as a guide. We have a really nice shape going, and just for me to make sure that things are even down here, I like to look down into my mirror, and I can really tell, my mirror's down here, so I'm looking down, and I can really tell if I have a straight line or not just by looking down. And if it's not straight, then I know to like go in and perfect it a little bit more. And for the top, I actually like to do that when I'm done with both brows, because sometimes one brow can look a little bit higher than the other. But if I look down like this, I can really tell where I went a little bit too high, a little bit too far. And then with that same spoolie, I can just go and knock the shape down a bit so it still looks as natural as I want it to look. It's really up to you, but it really helps me refine what I have going on. So I'm gonna do the other brow, and then I'm gonna come back and show you guys what I do when my brows aren't as fresh as they are today and they need a little extra help. So now that both brows are done, I'm gonna look down again, because that is when you can really tell if you went a little bit like too high with one. You can really fix a lot of the unevenness just by looking down like this. And so I go and I'm like, whoa, this brow is like doing the most, like very Maleficent vibes. So I just knock it down a little bit with the spoolie, and you can see it's like immediately softer. So again, I just want to match it on both sides. Really, really nice. One of the things that I like to do when I need a little extra help, where the brow pencil isn't enough because maybe my brow hairs are a little bit longer and I need something a little bit stronger to really get a strong shape, I use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow, and I have the shade Chocolate, which is a little bit darker than my brow pencil, which is great because I'll always start with that, and this can just add a little extra dimension and not look as fake as if, you know, if I use just one solid color. It's not gonna look as realistic, even though, you know, let's be real, this isn't like the realest looking brow. I did not wake up like this, but the dip brow and a little bit of a darker tone helps me really just do that detail work that I want, because I'm not using it throughout the whole brow, just areas where I need a little extra coverage. Now the brush that I use with this, I feel like is a total game changer. I don't know how I lived without this brush, and it is the Smith Cosmetics 203, and it has just the shortest bristles ever, which allow it to be very, very sturdy. So it's not going to be flimsy when you're drawing on your brows. And you can see I still have a little bit of brow pomade from the last time, and it's also super thin, so you can really get very precise and create brow strokes if you want. So if you want that really dramatic, like where you can see the hair strokes in the front of the brow, this is the brush for that, because it's super thin and sturdy, so you're really gonna get the line where you want it. So I'm gonna show you how I use it. So I just go right into the pomade. So I got my dip brow on it, and what you want to do is you want to smooth the product so that you really only have it on the tips of the brush and you don't have like thick globs of product on the outside. So you can just go on the back of your hand. I'm just using the palm to demonstrate for you guys. So I'm just smoothing the brush on the side, and then I'm just having the product on the tip. So it's helping to flatten it so you can get an even thinner line. So that's what I'm trying to do with that. So where I tend to use this is on the arch, because that's where I'll need a little bit of help. Sometimes I have a gap right here and I can only cover it with this. It's like no matter how many times I go over that area with the brow pencil, sometimes it just won't take. So I'll go in with something like this. So I'm just gonna look down because I don't want to change the shape that I have going on. And it just helps reinforce it. And it's really good for the tail because sometimes, again, it just maybe my skin is a little bit oily, or maybe my moisturizer is in the way, so I need a little extra help. And so I can use the brow wiz for that. Like any place where I'm going directly onto the skin and I don't have any hair, this is good to get that extra bit of detail so everything looks smooth and you don't have any gaps. So as you can see, at this point my brows are on fleek, and to help my brows look even more natural, I know guys, I know this is not a natural brow look, but to help them look a little more natural, I like to use a tinted brow gel, and I have the Glossier Boy Brow in black, and I really love this because it helps tint my brow hairs and makes them look a little bit darker, so that pencil and the pomade or anything that I have on underneath is gonna look a little bit lighter because of the contrast with the hair. So I like to take this. The spoolie is really short and it really grabs all your little hairs. So I don't press against my skin because I literally just want to coat my brow hairs. I don't want to darken the base that I have. I just want it to stay the color of the brow pencil. So I go on both sides, and I don't know if you guys will be able to tell on camera, but I can totally tell in person. And so again, I'm not using pressure to press this into my skin. I just want to coat my brow hairs with the product. On days when I have some regrowth, or if I have a special occasion, I like to use concealer under the brow, and any concealer will do. Today I'm using the Born This Way concealer, and I'm just putting some, the same one I would use under my eye. Just put a little bit on my hand here. And I use a flat synthetic brush. It could be any brush. This is the MAC 195. I also like the MAC 242. So you can use any flat brush. And I just coat the tip of it with the concealer. And I'm just going to follow the same shape that I have on here. And so let's see if I can do this without covering with my mirror. So I really like to do this even when my brows look good for special occasions, because I think it really helps your eye makeup. It just helps everything look even fresher in photos. I just think it's like a really good way to make your makeup look like it was professionally done. So it's a neat little trick. So I'm just really concerned about getting a straight line, and I don't want to get it on the brow pencil at all, or pomade or whatever, because then it turns gray, and then when you go over it with your pencil again, it just doesn't look the same. So a lot of times I don't even do this step because I don't want to risk it, but again, on days where I really want to look like I went in on my makeup, I feel like it's one of those little things that you do that really takes it to the next level. So I do like to do it. So I'm just going to take a little bit more. I ran out. And I really want to go here in the arch and just make it crispy. I don't know if anybody else says that. I want it to look crispy. So, not crisp, crispy. So, I got that, and you can see, like, that just looks so much more done than this eye, and I like that. So, it's really up to you and what type of look that you want. And then I just blend out that bottom portion onto the lid, so you got like a nice base going on. So when you put on your eye makeup, you're already halfway there. Now, I do not like to put concealer on top of my brows. That is not the way that I choose to clean up any little mistakes or to sharpen the shape that I have, because I do not like to see this like white halo around your brows. That is not the look for me. So I use foundation for the top of my brow. So whatever I'm using that day is what I'm going to be using to crisp everything up. And today I'm wearing the Face Atelier Ultra foundation. It's my favorite ever in life. I feel like I need to do a video dedicated to this because I will buy foundations left and right, like the new ones and everything, but this is like my holy grail, especially in the colder months. It's a lot for the spring and summer, but for colder months, it's just right. So I'm just gonna take a little bit. Again, I'm just going on the palm of my hand for this video. I don't typically use the palm of my hand, and I'm just gonna take that same brush, because when you're doing your face and you're working with a bigger brush or a beauty blender, you can't really get close without potentially ruining all your hard work. So it's good to go in with a flat brush right up against the brow, so you don't have to worry when you're like actually putting on your foundation, because like I said, I would do my brows first and then my face. So I'm just going right, again turning so that I can get a really good look at where I'm placing the brush, and I'm going right up against the shape I created, because to me there is nothing worse than having that gap between your brow and your face, like your face, your foundation. Like when you have that obvious ring around your hairline, it's like equally annoying. So I like to get as close as I can. Okay. And then I just use my fingertip to blend out the edge into my forehead. And look at that. So good. Alright guys, so here is the final look with all my makeup on, so you can see how the eyebrows just make it. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know down in the comments. If you have any advice for anyone else who's learning how to do their brows, leave it in a comment as well, and I'll leave links to everything I use down in the description box, as well as where you can follow me on social media. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!